Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on the Arrowverse as a whole, just DC TV, all the good stuff. So as we know, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected all of the Arrowverse shows in certain ways, some worse than others, and is continuing to make the process of making the shows different than usual, even though we are on the mend, people getting vaccinated and everything like that. And just especially America in general is getting back to normal. So it's still causing an issue with production though. And of course, one of the big changes has been the lack of a crossover for this season, which is usually one of the high points in regards to excitement and just like overall curiosity as to what they're going to do and all of that. I guess the plus side you could say for the people that, are behind the Arrowverse is that no crossover was set up within the shows for this season. Like, just imagine if COVID had happened the previous year and Christ on Infinite Earths couldn't be done. It'd be a disaster considering the setup in Elseworlds as well as the individual shows towards the end of their respective seasons. It would have been just a disaster in general. Now, one thing happening this season, which was sort of meant to fill in for a crossover of sorts and just be a mini crossover itself, was the return of Diggle to the Arrowverse. Of course, we'll have Diggle on Arrow on his way to Metropolis and coming across a crashed meteor with a strange glowing green object amongst it. And we later found out that Diggle would be coming back to the Arrowverse this year, for multiple appearances over multiple shows. Now, initially they were planning to make the crossover or make this the crossover with a more connected storyline over the shows. However, due to COVID, that couldn't be done. So instead, we'll be getting a sort of connected story, but it's just more personal to Diggle as a character rather than the characters around him, even though they'll still play a role. Now, earlier this week, Superman and Lois returned from its 2-month break or whatever it was, and David Ramsey, who plays Diggle, is actually directing the upcoming episode, that being episode 7, entitled Man of Steel. So due to that, he has been doing some press and interviews and all that for it, and of course, the topic of Green Lantern and his guest appearances were brought up. So we're going to go over an interview with TV Line where David goes over most things that people are curious about. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know your various thoughts, opinions, theories if you want. I'm always curious to hear them. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video as well, it would be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show your support for the channel, the video, and everything like that. First off, are you directing every episode you're guest starring in and guest starring in every episode you're directing? Close. I am guest starring in about 5 different episodes and I am directing 3, but it doesn't work out that I'm directing all the episodes I'm guest starring in. On Legends, for example, I'm guest starring and I'm also directing. That's the same with Supergirl. The third one I'm directing is Superman and Lois, but on a different occasion I'll be guest starring. I won't be directing the one I'm in. Now, this is a bit weird because it's sort of changed from the initial reports. Like when it was said back late last year, whenever it was, that David Ramsey was returning for these episodes as Diggle, it gave away that he was directing 5 episodes and appearing in 5 episodes. So I don't know if just schedules changed and it didn't work for him to direct all 5, or maybe episodes were cut and they just, his episodes got taken away. I'm not too sure, but from what we were led to believe, he was directing 5 as well as being in 5 of them as Diggle, so it's changed a bit there by the looks of it. Was directing Superman and Lois pretty different than the others? It is quite a bit more cinematic, more 16:9 ratio over there. 100%, you're floating between 3 anamorphic lenses to get that aspect ratio. That's the technical stuff, and it's just a different pace. Tonally, it's a different pace. I don't think it's a small secret that it's a family show that has Superman in it, and you feel that. You feel that in the scope, in the way it's shot, you feel that in the writing, and obviously in the performances. And that's not taking away anything from the other shows. It's just a different type of pace and a different look. I mean, the pilot was incredibly cinematic and it set the tone. We were all playing catch up in the sense that the pilot had months to shoot it, while each episode has 10 days. So you're trying to keep that scope, that look, and that pace that the pilot had. And I think every episode has done a great job of that, but that show was very different than most of the Arrowverse. Can we say Arrowverse now, or is it Belantiverse? I don't know, either way. So yeah, that's obviously, they've set Superman and Lois up to look at different and feel different from the get-go. It's hard for shows to adapt that, especially when you're in a later season. Like maybe Batwoman could have adapted it in season 2, but that's probably the only show that could have adapted it. In regards to this, he does say that all the other episodes have 10 days. I'm pretty sure it's longer than that. I'm pretty sure Superman and Lois has much longer than 10 days to film their episodes. So I don't know if that's just him saying that. I'm not too sure. Maybe he only had 10 days for his episode, but they fell behind for a reason. It wasn't just the COVID stuff. They fell behind because they take so long to make the episode. So yeah, not too sure what's going on there. Some Arrowverse fans may be assuming that your Legends mystery role is the one to watch for as far as any green matters, but from what I've heard, it's your other guest appearances that really tell that story. That's true. There was some press that was out there that I'm playing a mystery character in Legends, and from that kind of wording, there was an assumption that because obviously Legends is a time ship and they go through time and space, fans connected that to the Green Lantern Corps. Also, the last time he saw Diggle, who was on his way to Metropolis and was intercepted by a glowing green box, so it was a logical step in assuming that. But on Legends, there's a different character altogether. It's a historic character, a historical Western character, and you can see that character on screen right now. Just Diggle with a mustache and a cowboy hat. So I don't know what I think they gave him a name, but it's not in this interview. I'm just going to call him Diggle of the West. That's pretty crap. They'll probably have a better name. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. To your other point, which is exploring what has happened to Diggle since encountering that green box, that will be explored in the other episodes on Batwoman, Flash, Superman and Lois, and Supergirl. Whatever was in the box, he refused the invitation of, let's put it like that, but there are consequences to that. We've gone to great lengths over the years to make Diggle one of the more grounded characters. Anytime he would go fast with the Flash, he would throw up, and he was always amazed when he saw someone flying. All these things were kind of otherworldly to him because he was a very earthbound hero, and after Crisis, he got back his wife, who was abducted by the Monitor, and he got back his daughter Sarah, who was taken out of existence by Flashpoint. So part of Diggle's story is that the last thing he would want to do right now is receive an invitation from something otherworldly because he finally has his family back, and he lost his best friend to some otherworldliness as well. So he refused the invitation of whatever was in the box, but there are consequences to that, and that story, what he will do next, is part of what we will tell throughout these 4 episodes. Now, this rang the alarm bells. Everyone was going, oh my god, there's no Green Lantern coming, they've clickbaited us. And in a sense, yes, they're not going to see Diggle flying around with a Green Lantern ring and, you know, making constructs and everything like that in this you know, episode stretch, 4 episode stretch, I guess, because the Legends episode doesn't count. However, based off this, I think it's pretty clear that these 4 episodes are going to be Diggle understanding why he needs to accept that invitation, or at least building the confidence and the understanding to accept that invitation. Almost think of Diggle's journey throughout this 4 episode stretch, similar to like Sam Wilson, I guess you could say, on Captain America, oh, not Captain America, on Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and him learning to accept the shield and the destiny and stuff like that. It's not the exact same, but think of that as a sort of example there. So that's what's sort of going to be happening with Diggle. I think it's going to be his experiences with Batwoman, Flash, Superman, and Supergirl, where he'll then move on and accept that. And I think the final thing we'll see with him, which I think his final episode of Supergirl, is him actually putting on the ring. Maybe glowing green for a bit, but I think putting on the ring, or at least us seeing the ring and him accepting it. That's my prediction. Let's see what happens there. I could be completely wrong and they're going to jip us, but I'm confident. Of all the characters that Diggle runs into on the 4 shows, does anyone possibly have insight into exactly what he's been dealing with? Has anyone heard of a corps, or heard tell of a corps of galactic law enforcers or anything like that? No, we don't get into that. This is a very, very, very preliminary look at what happens from his refusal and what it means to his destiny. We simply get into the preliminary physical effects of his refusal of what it was in that box. Your first guest stop is on Batwoman. What takes Dig to Gotham? Because best that I recall, he doesn't know anybody there, right? Headaches. Debilitating headaches. And he's hearing voices. He goes to Gotham to get help with this, to see a physician there. And in the meantime, his Argus story continues. His wife is still head of Argus and he's co-head. And that's part of what he brings when he goes to these cities. He's there to assist and help in whatever way he can with his access to Argus. That's a very big part of who he is. So with Batwoman, it'll just be interesting to see how he gets folded in there. Even though they say Argus is how, like, does he just run into Batwoman, I guess, when he's on Argus? Or do they say, oh, the Argus guy's here, we'll ring him? Not too sure. But in regards to the physical effects, I do wonder if this is going to be the Guardians of Oa, which are like those blue things that are in the Green Lantern movie, and just in the, if you read Green Lantern comics and stuff. I wonder if they're the things that are giving him the headaches or the physical effects, or if it's just like he was meant to put on the ring. Like if he had the ring, it'd be normal. But because he sort of rejected him as having like a physical effect. I'm curious. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Like Metropolis is the obvious one with Superman and Lois. Flash makes sense. Supergirl to an extent makes sense. But yeah, the Batman one was the one that people were wondering about. So we'll at least get a mention of Lila, even if we don't see her. Without a doubt, life for Diggle post-Crisis continues in the sense that he is a father and he continues to be an earthbound hero, but his duties at Argus have multiplied. But within that, he's hiding something, and that's part of what we're telling in these stories. Will there be any other Arrow mentions, like where we hear that Laurel is now doing NFT paintings? How'd you know that? No, we mentioned Oliver and his relationship with Oliver in these stories, but that's the extent of mentioning the past and his life with Arrow. We really are trying to show that John Diggle has moved on from that, yet there's something that's pulling him, something that's a lot more bigger and far more cosmic than he's letting on. So they're pretty much saying that the Green Lantern's happening. In my opinion, that's what they're saying here. Like, it sounds like David Ramsey knows that in the future that's here, but this is like, this little thing here is to set it up. As we know, as I said earlier in the video, there was meant to be a bigger crossover with that, where maybe they would have dived into that and it actually would have been more developed, but because they can't do that, it's split over different shows and not connected by, like, you know, in the same week. They're all like, I think the episode's like 5 months apart from the first one to the last one. So yeah, it just sounds like they're doing it. And finally, what was one of the biggest things you had to direct among the 3 shows? You mentioned Superman and Lois, the scope of which is unlike anything we've seen in this Berlanti-verse. And Supergirl, like Flash, is one of our older stalwarts, so they are very dialed in. But you want to know something? Legends. Some people may or may not be like, really? Legends? Yes. Legends is one of those shows that is very indulgent, if you will, as a director. When you come into any show, they have a tone. You do this and you don't do that. On some shows, it's like, hey, I want to do this with the camera. I want to put this with him. And it's like, oh, we don't really do that. On Legends, where do you want it? What do you want to do? Absolutely go for it. Personally, I think if Legends was on a major network and had a little bit more money thrown into it, it will be nominated for art director, for set designer, because it's that crazy and that big. Every week is Deadpool. So yeah, just overall my thoughts on this. As I've already said a couple of times, I think this story is just developing Diggle a bit more focused on him, but with the perspective of the different shows and interacting with these different heroes. Because in the crossovers, Diggle sort of like plays a different role than he does on Arrow. You know, he's sort of like that, you know, because he's like meant to be like the general viewer and like experiencing seeing aliens and seeing flying Kryptonians and seeing all this different stuff. But in this, I think it's going to be a bit more of a personal story, and I'm excited to see how they develop Diggle to the point where I think he will then accept the ring in that final episode, or at least allude to it. But hopefully we actually get to see it on Supergirl and he puts it on. It's a bit weird that Supergirl's the final episode. I understand due to scheduling, that's the way it's played out. It wouldn't surprise me too much if they would have wanted maybe Superman or the Flash to be the last episode, but that's just the way it's worked out, I guess. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on this, any theories you want to add. Do you have a different thought track? Is that the best way to put it? Just a different thought or theory in regards to Diggle's story, and potentially if he does or does not become Green Lantern or accepted. Just let me know your various thoughts and stuff down in the comments. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.